Welcome to the Shots Pod, where we discuss all things Aldershot Town FC. I'm Lorent Flint, and I'm joined by my dad, Howard Flint. And our guest for today is Rob Worrall, who is, you'll know, of course, the Shots matchday commentator, works for BBC's Surrey Sport. A very busy man, so we're glad to really pin him down for this. Rob, welcome to the show. How you doing?
Yeah, delighted to be on, and it's so good to see a couple of Aldershot Town related pods starting. I've really enjoyed your first two, and I'm most humbled and grateful that you've asked me on in the third one.
Yeah, pressure, Dad, isn't it? He knows what he's doing with podcasts, Rob.
Yeah, big pressure. Yeah. I feel in awe. I feel in awe of sitting next to both of you.
He's keeping in everybody's good books there.
Yeah, that really won't last long at all. Rob, we'll get into, obviously, your role with the Shots. Obviously, you're a long-time Shots fan, as my dad is as well. So I'm sure you can trade memories for days on end there. But I thought a good place to start, obviously, the transfer window is just pretty much shut. So it'd be great to just get both of your thoughts, really. Dad, if you just kick off with what you make of the business that the Shots have done or maybe haven't done. And of course, we do know 3 major incomings, 2 on loans. We've got Josh Barrett, who's coming from Kings Lynn. Obviously, connection there with the manager. James Daly's come in, who's, of course, ex-Woking. He's played at a higher level as well. And then, of course, you've got Rollin Menes coming back at the centre-back position. He's on loan from Walsall. So 2 really good kind of league above loans coming down. Plus Josh Barrett. What do you make of it?
I was a bit surprised actually, Liam, because there's one in each section of the team, isn't there? Apart from goalkeeper, you've got a centre back basically in Rollin. You've got an out and out striker, and I've read recently that Daly's been described as a winger, so he's obviously bolstered the forward line in terms of that. So I was a little bit surprised because I thought probably there'd be more work on the defensive section of the team. But I think he obviously knows his players, and I've been noticing, we've all noticed the repeated pattern of people that Tommy either knows or has recruited previously, he trusts. So I think the picture we're getting of Tommy is he knows players that he trusts and they know his style, and that's how he's recruited. So, I think good business. Daly obviously did well at Woking, didn't he? He was very successful last year. So I'm pleasantly surprised. I thought there might be another centre back or full back or defensive minded player. And we've talked about midfield before, where we think there's been problems, if anywhere. And he hasn't gone for an out and out midfield player, I don't think.
No, I think that was the surprise. Rob, what did you make of it? We've heard a lot of fans, I'm sure you've heard it, talk about maybe the goalkeeper position. We need more in defence, definitely midfield. And obviously, Tommy's packed that front line. So you could argue we've now got the best front 3. We've got depth. Obviously, then we've got Menes coming in at the back. What do you make of it?
Well, what I've learned in the time that Tommy Witherington's been in charge is he knows his stuff. He knows his stuff as far as recruitment, obviously brilliantly backed and supported by Jamie Hedges because Tommy hasn't got time to do everything. And he'll be well aware. Obviously, fans take to social media all the time with their opinions of certain players and certain positions. And he's not stupid. He knows where we're struggling defensively. He's also not going to come and call out 1 or 2 individuals and say how rubbish they are. Even the fans might do that, or how poor they've been performing. He's not going to do that. He wants to keep their confidence levels high. He wants them to have their belief in him. But he knows where the issues are. One of the things that's bewildered me all season is I've often looked across our defence, and individually I like them all. They've all got their merits. I genuinely think it's our sheer desire to attack so frequently and score so many goals that is the big problem. You look at the back 3. Ollie Harfield has adapted brilliantly to a new position, and for me is still the most consistent player Aldershot have had all season, wherever he's played. Cian Harries, you can break his season into 3, can't you? The one at the start and the one more recently where he's left himself open to a little bit of criticism with, perhaps occasionally just dwelling on a ball when he might have hoofed it away. But the biggest chunk of the season, he's been superb. And he's been a leader as well. He's he didn't probably realise himself he was a good penalty taker, but he does now, 6 out of 6. Kobe Rose got his merits when you need that big, strong warrior. I think he's been targeted a little on that right side where teams have tried to get at him with a bit of pace. And that's one of the things that Tommy's obviously looked to give himself options in. As for the players coming in, I think this season Barrett will probably play a bit part. He'll probably come off the bench a few times as he has. He will get the odd start, I'm sure. But I think he's been shown, come into the group, get to know the people, get yourself up to your best fitness and form that you can. And obviously, there's potential next season with Stokes moving on for someone else to come into that position. And Daly today, fantastic. I've only watched him twice in the flesh. He's been brilliant. He is the most direct kind of attacking wide player, I would say, I've seen in the last 2 or 3 years. And when I watched him play for Woking against Aldershot, I think he scored that day, but he definitely, he was one of 4 or 5 players Woking had that day, and I thought they're going to do really, really well this season, and they did. And he got his move, of course, up to Harrogate, didn't he? He's a great find. Where's he going to play is the thing, because I think Woking used him a lot down the left side, but Widrington likes to play with wing backs, doesn't he? Not wingers. So he may well be competing for one of those 3 forward positions. I don't know.
What do you think, Liam?
Yeah, I think Daly, I was going to ask you kind of who excites you the most. I think for me, Daly, like you said, his directness, his pace, I think with what we already have really complements everything nicely. So I think it does, I mentioned this before, I think it does make our front line one of the best in the league. And we've now got a bit of depth. So we're not constantly asking Stokes and Tolaj to just constantly play 90 minutes, which I think will be a big plus. Just great for rotation and injury and all that kind of thing. But I do think at the back, I think, Manny is a great signing. I mean, he's solid. And obviously, he's proven at a higher level. So I think that was a good piece of business, obviously only a loan. But I was just curious about midfield. I think a lot of people have said maybe just one more in midfield. But I think, as you've said, Rob, it seems like a style of play issue, perhaps, rather than the individuals, because we are just so attacking. So maybe, well, not maybe, clearly Tommy's, like you said, he knows what he's doing. And if he doesn't feel we need midfield reinforcements, then that's the reason why he's gone for either end of the pitch. But I think, overall, I think that's a solid window. What would you rate it, Dad, out of 10?
I'd give it a 7. I'd certainly give it a 7. I mean, there are midfield players that are not playing at the moment, aren't they? You know, Tommy Willard, for example, isn't making the squad in several recent games. And I've always rated Tommy. I think he's a really promising young player. But clearly, you know, Tommy Widrington knows what he's doing, and Tommy Willard isn't figuring at the moment. But no, I would say, like you said, solid. And I think it's been great. And I heard at the end of the Wealdstone game, you know, was that entertaining? And I'm sure, you know, everyone would say this season's been fantastically entertaining. Long may it continue.
Two quick points on the midfield and on the window. Don't think he needed to strengthen there. He has 5 players for 2 positions. He has O'Keefe, his skipper. He has Tetek, he has Frost, he has Widrington, and he has Willard. Willard has been out with a slight knock of late. A lot of people questioning why he's not been involved. I think he has had his injury issues, and obviously he's had surplus to 16, so not everybody will get in every week. I think it's about finding the right combination in there. I think we all felt in the couple of games last week, maybe 2 weeks ago as this pod comes out, that Tommy sort of stumbled across a good one in Tetek and O'Keefe. Tetek seemed to really complement O'Keefe. But the pair of them, to be fair, have had very little football and they need to play their way to fitness. And I think the rotation Tommy's doing will allow that to come to its fore. And I think if you've got 5 players competing for 2 positions, I think it's fine. Frost is versatile. He can play in the wing-back roles if necessary. And Theo Widrington isn't everybody's cup of tea. And a lot of people wouldn't have him in their first 11, but he goes through the dirty work. He gets ever since I've watched football, the players that play in that position never get appreciated. I do think he's a limited player, but what he's good at, he's pretty solid at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's well put. Of course, game of opinions. Everybody's going to say, "Oh, why don't we sign this or a new goalkeeper or blah blah blah," whatever people want to say. That's perfectly fine. But we're not in the Premier League. It's not going to be 50 million on deadline day. So that's the reality. But I think that it's just nice, isn't it, to look at a shot squad and to see talent spread across the pitch, a bit of depth. I think this is the strongest squad I can remember for a while. So clearly, Tommy's gone, right, let's really push the second half of the season. And there's been reinforcement there. So, yeah, now it's a case of them gelling and getting on with it.
Yeah.
And a quick final point I was desperate to add a minute ago, and then I completely forgot. Howard, you gave it the window a 7 out of 10, but the one element of the transfer window we haven't talked about, and the reason I'd give it a 9 out of 10 is because Lorent Tolaj is still, at this point, an Aldershot Town player. I do not doubt, and I have, by the way, no inside information at all, but I do not doubt there will have been conversations yesterday about Tolaj between Tommy and probably more than one club. And obviously, nobody was able to get a deal done. And that may just be down to something Tommy's very stubborn about and very loyal about. And that is that he said the players he's brought in for this season are here for this season minimum. And if anybody wants to stump up for them, then it'll only happen if there's a loan back. And that obviously couldn't be agreed.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't surprise me at all if there was a couple of clubs very seriously interested in Tolaj in the transfer window. But they probably wanted him this season.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point, Rob. I mean, my 7 was largely looking at what's come in, players who've come in. I think the fact we haven't lost anyone, have we, that we know of, I think you're right. I can see why that's a 9 for you. I wasn't really thinking about that, actually. I hadn't really.
That's all right.
Well, he's getting such a good press, isn't he? I mean, every single game he's making chances, scoring regularly. He's developing his game as well. Several times recently, I've seen him take shots with his right foot that have been equally as good as his left, and you think, wow, he's really coming on. I think as a balanced player. So that's good point. We've still got him.
Yeah,
hurrah to that.
Yes,
hurrah! Yeah, still got him for now. I mean, Dad, I'm assuming the reality is wouldn't make too many plans for him to be around for next season, but we'll take whatever we can get with Tolaj, basically.
Yeah. I mean, I can't. Rob might remember, but I can't remember the last time Aldershot had 3 strikers in double figures. At this time of the season, but also high double figures. 19, 15, and 14, 17. That's remarkable. We haven't had that since sort of Dungworth and way back, or in the days of when Aldershot were regularly getting Jack House to get 20 plus. So I think to have 3 strikers out of your 4 or 5 doing that well is remarkable. Testament to the strategy and Tommy and the team, really, I think.
Yeah, and so we drew, didn't we, 10 days or so ago with Bromley 1-1, and Andy Woodman said afterwards, I think this team's got the best front 3 in the National League. And if you add up the total goals of the top 3, they easily are, aren't they? I remember that Effiong had just gotten to 19 when Dagenham came in last year. And there perhaps could be your difference this year. We have the opportunity to kick on. And one of the things I loved about what was coming out of the Tommy Widrington camp going into the transfer window was Aldershot fans might be loving this season. They might be delighted that they're up the top end, battling away. He said, but I'm already thinking about how can we push on? I'm not content to just be here. And he wanted to have conversations with the chairman about how they could strengthen. And I love that. And this is one of the reasons why that I think that whilst we as a club continue to progress and whilst we have good ambition, I think we can stay on the Tommy bus. If Tommy at any point feels that the club's ambition don't match his, he might step off his own bus. That's my worry. But so far, so good. And Widrington's only had great things to say about Shots board to this point, which is great.
Yeah, that's good news. Yeah, I love the comment after the West Brom game. Obviously there's lots of euphoria and stuff, but I loved his comment, Rob, when he said, I'm going in to see the chairman and see what he wants to do, which suggested to me money, ambition, future planning, all that, which is great to hear. I think really good.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're all enjoying our seats on the Tommy bus, Rob, so don't worry about that. We hope it just keeps on going. Signings for 5 years.
I'm in the OAP section. I'm that bit, where we've got special seats.
Yeah. We're all enjoying the journey at the moment. So we'll see what the coming weeks give us when the team gels. Obviously, some tough games coming up. And Rob, keen to just talk to you a little bit about what you do. Obviously, many people will have either heard you or have seen you in and around the club. But we'd love to just get to know a little bit more about just why the Shots. You are the voice of the Shots. You've done it for a long time. Just tell us why you have a connection with the club. How did you actually get into doing the commentary that you do?
Well, the connection with the club is quite an unusual one. I have never lived in Aldershot or in the area, but both my parents were born and grew up in Aldershot. My mum just along in the high street in front of the Manor Park, and my dad a few roads back near the Newport Road School. My father was in the RAF, so Aldershot was a place as children we always visited, but we never lived. And it's fair to say, genuinely, that me and my elder brother Patrick, we could hear the roar of the wreck, as we called it, when we were playing outside in front of my nan's or over at the Manor Park. We could hear the cheers when the goal went in. We were fascinated. Now, both grandparents on both sides of my family used to go and watch Aldershot regularly, but neither my mum or dad are interested in football at all. So it's kind of skipped a generation until me and Patrick were nagging at them, take us to the football, take us to the football. And we first went when I think we didn't go in. We went up the Redan Hill, and I think I climbed across up on my brother's shoulders to look in and see the East Bank end when maybe he was about 11 and I was about 8, something like that. And we actually did that on an incredibly famous day. I don't know if Liam, you won't remember this. Howard, you might, or you might have heard about it. But Aldershot played Newport, and Glenn Johnson, Aldershot Town's iconic goalkeeper, saved a penalty. It was retaken. He saved it again, and it was retaken for a third time, and he saved it again. And no word of a lie, on that afternoon, that was the afternoon that me and my brother were clambering up the fence, up the Redan Road, looking down at that penalty being taken 3 times. And that's an incredible thing. I don't know of that ever happening in football before or since. No. So from that point on, I think we nagged our parents to take us. And I've been a fan more and more and more since 2004. I started hanging around the media box. I started helping out Steve Gibbs, doing some stuff on Shots Web, started doing a match blog. Then I nagged them to let me sit in the media box while I did it. Mm-hmm. And then one day, Gav Dennison, the regular commentator for 10 or 11 years, I think, on Aldershot Town, turned to me in the media box before a game away at Oxford and said, "Rob, my summariser hasn't turned up. You come a lot. Would you like to sit with me?" And he let me. I nearly ruined the future commentary career because when Marvin Morgan felled in that beautiful goal at Oxford to win 1-0, I just shouted, "Yeah, what a goal!" And Gav turned and gave me the stonest look. It kind of went from there, and I summarised alongside him a little bit. Graham Brookland, I must thank. He recognised I had something and invited me to join the Shots media team, which was obviously all voluntary. And he really encouraged me to start doing the match reports and interview the players, and he literally gave me my legs.
So, Rob, as a fan, as a Shots fan, is it hard to separate, and be impartial? Because you're obviously on BBC local radio, and we hear some commentaries, and there's some very biased commentaries around the country that I've heard. But is it hard to be impartial, and how do you separate your emotions when you're doing that?
It's a great question. Love the question. It's difficult, and the answer might surprise people, but over time I've become very aware of who is the audience today. So if we're playing a team and they've got their own radio station or their own club providing commentary, you know that the vast majority of the opposing fans will be listening to that. And so you can be probably just a couple of degrees more partisan towards Aldershot. Steve Gibbs, who's my regular kind of sidekick at home games, I think we both pride ourselves on the work we do on the opposition. to try and give the opposition as much credit as they deserve on the day. We try and call it as we see it. But the hardest moment are the moments when Aldershot score and when the opposition score. And I've heard back some of my commentaries, and undoubtedly you can hear the passion come out in the Aldershot goals. But what I've really tried this season to work on, because you've always got to keep trying to improve, is to try and generate a similar level of excitement when the opposition score. That's the hardest thing, because inside you've got that sinking feeling, oh no, we've conceded again. But that's somebody's great moment, and that's somebody who's listening's great moment, isn't it? So you try to get the best balance that you can, and it's most definitely not easy. But largely, I just call it as I see it.
I think you do that very well, Rob. We've been living in Cornwall for a long time, up until recently. So a lot of what I had to do was to follow by radio. We call those the wilderness years. And I think you do that extremely well, really do. And it is hard. You could just tell in your voice occasionally that, particularly recently when we've been conceding within 3, 4, 5 minutes of going ahead or whatever, it's like, oh, you are a fan, but you're being very balanced. And are there particular moments that are so memorable for you, that you think those are my top 2 or 3 memories of commentating?
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt, and it happened this season. I need to give you a little bit of background info. I nearly always have a summariser, and I nearly always have a live audience, whether it's radio or online. But I travelled to Swindon without a summariser and without any broadcast going out live, and I sat in the media box on my own, and I was told to do something that's called a dry commentary, so that it could be used for the club's highlights, and so that maybe it could be in the BBC archives if anything special happened. And then something incredibly special happened. And I was just so relieved that I took it seriously that day and commentated, because the two main things I remember. One is that the commentary was used on BBC's Match of the Day for the first time for me, which was a wonderful moment. Certainly for the Aldershot goals anyway. They sliced it up. They used the BBC Wiltshire guys' goal commentary for the 4 Swindon goals, but that was amazing. And I think my favourite moment in commentary also came in that match, and it's when Lorent Tolaj was breaking towards the edge of the area, and I was thinking, oh, that's not bouncing very kindly on his left foot, but he didn't care, did he? He hit it with his right foot, as you mentioned earlier in the podcast, Howard. And it's not a bad right foot either, is it? Do you know what I mean? I think that's my favourite moment and favourite goal commentary. It was pure ecstasy and almost disbelief that a guy who's got such a good left foot could hit a ball as well as he did with his right.
Yeah, wow. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
There have been so many moments, haven't there, Rob, this season especially, that it's almost a privilege, I guess, to be that close to the action, to be able to call it first. Obviously, years gone by, you're probably thinking, oh, actually, the stadium's half empty or we're 19th in the table. But there have been so many highs this year. And obviously, I'm sure you're very proud of being part of those and voicing over those. Are there certain players that in this current squad that when they get on the ball, you just think the way they move or just the finishes, or is there something that you think, I love commentating on this player for this reason and they give me the best reason to get excited or to demonstrate how good this game is?
Yeah, I'll pick a couple. I in all the years I played football, I was a forward, so I tend to watch attackers more. But I have to massively compliment Ollie Harfield. As I've already said, I believe he's our most consistent player. He's learnt a new role. His speed of thought and speed of feet and level of control in tight situations is fantastic. And there's many times in commentary this season I've gone, oh, Ollie Harfield, that's brilliant. That's so good. Stokes, of course, has had all the massive plaudits, and he just sees the game ahead of everybody else. Often what he does is quite composed, and he just stroke a pass, and he'll just do this. And it's not they're not necessarily always wow moments with Josh, but he's so consistent at them, and he finds a way to unlock defences. But it's Tolaj for me. Tolaj is the one who's given me those screaming, those massive highs, those hairs standing on end moments. And he's become, over the course of, not even 2/3 of one season, probably the most, the striker that I'm most excited to watch, to be honest with you. I think he's always thinking goal. He believes he can shoot and score from anywhere. If you put together a clip of his best 6 efforts this season that didn't go in, they would be amazing. They'd be rattling crossbars. They'd be moving in the air. You'd see goalkeepers tipping them over in the corner. He's an absolute delight to watch.
Even now, as you say, Tolaj, I can instantly hear your voice from recent games when he scores, and you completely lose the plot with Tolaj. You love it when Tolaj scores, and he's given you a lot of reason to cheer. I mean, it's 3-3 now. Hopefully, he'll get up to 20 goals for the season. And we've spoken about the importance that he has. So again, you must be really proud that you were there for this season when he was with us, because you never know with these players, do you, how long we've got them for?
You don't know. Hopefully we've got him now to the end of the season, at least, and potentially beyond. It's funny you just said about, he absolutely is 19 goals. I got ahead of myself on Tuesday night at Wilston, and I think in my commentary I awarded him his 20th goal of the season. A little bit later I realised, no, he's on 19. But I don't think it would be long in coming, as you say, 3-3. And let's hope it turns up in the next week or two.
Yeah.
Well, I know you've just kind of put a mark on your name there as getting his goal count wrong, but obviously the match of the day, the fact that you've had a mention there means you're going up in the world, Rob. So I just wanted to, for a moment, allow you to dream. And let's imagine you one day commentating with the best of the best in your field. I was trying to think, if I was you, who would you actually want in the box with you to do some co-commentary with for the day, to just learn off, be around? Who are you looking at?
Well, that's really interesting. So as a commentator, I love to have professional insight alongside me. As much as I've watched and played the game for many years, I even had a season and a half in management, but there's no insight like that of a professional. So I love to have, and do have, people like Aaron McLean and Neil Smudger Smith alongside me already, which is great. In terms of commentators, there's been some iconic ones over the years. But one who's current and someone I've gotten to know a little bit. He's been on our podcast a few times, and I've met him 2 or 3 times in person, and he's really thorough at what he does. Is Adam Summerton. I actually really genuinely like him. I like the way he calls the game. He does a lot of research, but he blends in all the stats and the stories into the commentary superbly. And it's no coincidence for me that he's been getting European games. He's had a couple of games this week in the Premier League with the commentary. Obviously I wouldn't have him as a co-commentator, but as a commentator, looking up at the commentators I aspire to learn from, then Adam Summerton would certainly be the current one. Obviously, we grew up, didn't we, with the Motsons and the Barry Davies and that of this world. I did get to meet John Motson once very briefly. I also got to meet the guy. Retired now, isn't he? Martin Tyler, of course, because he used to come and watch Aldershot quite a lot back in the day, apparently. He said whisper it quietly around Woking when he was there, but he lived in the area, didn't he? And he watched a lot of the local sides.
Right, I think we'll, just to finish, Rob, we'll circle back just again talking about this season and looking forward really to 2024. And Dan and I have been asking each of our guests just to really think about where Tommy's got us now, and then obviously looking forward to where we're going to finish. But first off, just looking at Tommy, obviously at the back end of last season, couldn't really judge him from that, but did a good job. This full season now we're seeing, how much would you rate just what he's managed to do in the time that he's had with the players, a lot of squad overhaul? How impressed have you been with the way that he's made the connection with the fans, managed the club, and all of that?
Better than I possibly could have hoped or dreamed for is probably the answer to that. We've had everything. He's delivered us everything that he was tasked with. Front foot, attacking football, lots of goals, better home form, a little bit of progress, excellent progress in the FA Cup. Largely for me, I was asked earlier in the season what did I think it was down to, and obviously his overall ability as a leader, as a manager, as a recruiter. And I think the two main things it falls under are recruitment and mentality. I think in recent years, we've had a lot of footballers at Aldershot Town Football Club that were quite content to be professional footballers and just to exist as professional footballers and play a game on a Saturday. And we didn't have enough winners. We didn't have enough people who were trying to push themselves to the limit of their boundaries. And just about every one of our players out there on a Saturday or Tuesday does that, because Tommy's got them believing that they can do better. So recruitment and mentality, and that's the biggest step forward for this football club under this manager, is in the mentality of the players.
Yeah, and where do you think we might finish? We've had discussions about this already, Rob. What are your thoughts about where we'll finish this year?
Okay, I've had a good look at it. I think the title's done. I think with reasonable form, Bromley and Barnet can probably hang on to second and third, but they can most definitely hang on to a playoff place. That leaves 4 playoff places. I think you've got to go down to, I think it's Hartlepool in 12th. So you've got 9 teams looking for the remaining 4 playoff spots. A bookie would probably give you odds of 40 to 50% of Aldershot finishing in one of those. I dare say if he was joining us in this commentary, Tommy would say, poppycock, it's about making it happen. We believe in ourselves. It's about us delivering, etc. I'm going to say I'm not sitting on the fence here. I'm going to say my head says 8th and my heart says 7th.
Yeah.
What about you guys? I mean, you're entitled to change that view week in, week out, of course, but
yeah. Shall I go first, Liam? I mean, I was very impressed with the last 2 performances at home. So I thought we played really well against Bromley. To me, there was a turning of a corner, so to speak, after the rather poor results before that. So I thought Bromley shots could well have won and probably should have won, and probably went home saying we should have won, because I thought we played really well. And Tetek was very, very good. I thought he made such a difference to the midfield in terms of just holding the ball, giving the ball simply, but being progressive. And then Rochdale, there were so many chances in that second half that they could have won 5 or 6, really, I think. So I predicted, or I said 8th. I think I'm probably a bit like you, Rob. My heart says, yeah, it'd be wonderful to be 6th or 7th. And I could see it, and I'm glad we've turned a bit of a corner. And even Wealdstone, the second half, there was one team in it, wasn't there? And they could well have won that game.
Okay, so you're saying, was that a 7th, Dad, or an 8th that you're committing to there?
No, I'm staying with my 8th, but a bit like Rob, I think it's very possible we could be 7th. And I think I said we needed to win half the remaining games. That was before the Bromley, Wealdstone, Rochdale games. So what do we get from those games? That's 5 more points. So that's okay. 5 points out of 9. If we get half the points, 1.5 points a game, then, more or less. I think if we can beat people like Halifax, we've got Barnet at home, we've got Gateshead away. Some of those key tussles with the people who are also trying to get into those spots. Oldham at home, I think, haven't we? So if we can win at least half of those and certainly draw the other half, we'll be there. We'll be 7th, won't we? Rob has spoken.
Yeah, let's hide.
What do you think, Liam?
Yeah, what do you think?
I'm hiding behind you, Rob. I think I just find it deeply frustrating because we have the best front 3. People have said it. I believe it in the league, and we now have strength and depth as well. So I don't see any reason why Shots couldn't get on a run and get 5th, and just really have where we blast teams away. In the last few weeks, we've seen 2-0 away from home, 2-0 away from home. There's no reason we couldn't go on to win 4-0, 4-0. But obviously, you've spoken about mentality, but there is also something there where we're letting teams back in at the same time, especially away from home. But what concerns me is the amount of goals we concede. And with this yo-yo approach, I don't think I've seen a team recently do that and end up fourth, because you have some off days. You may score 5, but then the next day, if Stokes doesn't turn up or someone else, we're going to concede most games with the pattern of play. So I can see there have been lots of 3-3s and lots of comebacks and us conceding 2 in the last 2 minutes. So I think the inconsistency for me with what we're doing up front versus the goals we're letting in, I mean, they are hand in hand, because we want to outscore the opposition. But I'm not sure that's a model that's going to get you out of the league at this point. So I think we could get 6th, we could get 5th. But I think, if we continue in the pattern we have, then I'm thinking 7th or 8th, because there may be some drops in form as well.
That's exactly the reason why I'm saying 7th or 8th, because I know there'll be, as Tommy calls them, bumps in the road, and he also said buckle up, didn't he? It's gonna be like that. That's for sure. And absolutely, if Aldershot could find the right balance and concede a lot less, then we could go on a really good winning run as well. But let's just take a reality check. Let's go back 12 months and imagine that we were having this debate today. Will we finish 7th or 8th? We'd have all laughed at ourselves, wouldn't we?
Yeah. And we've commented about that previously, Rob, that, this is a really good season anyway. And almost whatever happens now, we'll be saying it was a great fun, wonderful to follow the shots and be part of the story, really. Yeah, I think so. And just looking ahead, Rob, what would you think the next steps for Tommy are? I mean, for me, the next steps for the chairman is to make sure that Tommy is tied to the club for the foreseeable future. But in terms of Tommy, have you any thoughts about his next steps?
I think he's already thinking about next season. I think if recruitment's your thing, which it is with him and some of those who work with him, then it's all about succession planning, isn't it? It's all about, well, if this player moves on, who have we got coming in that can potentially grow into that? And I love the way that they've already brought young players like Ollie Bray in, because they see potential there. And they can also show Ollie, look at Josh Stokes and look at Lorent Tolaj. We showed belief in them. Look how they've blossomed, I think he's an ambitious manager, as I say, and I think he'll be planning undoubtedly for next season with Aldershot Town. And I think the 2 areas he'll be most looking at is this season's we've had a little bit of the element of surprise, which we won't have next season. If we are, for example, in this league again next season. And unquestionably as well, he needs to think and try and analyse just why we're conceding so many goals. So he is there an issue that we're in the formation in which we're playing? Does that need to be tweaked? Do we need to look at personnel? He'll be looking across the park for anybody that's out there that he believes is affordable and available and is better than what we've got right now. I think he's quite ruthless in that respect. He won't be afraid to move people on if he doesn't deem that they're that they're suitable for Aldershot 2.0 next season. Sounds good, actually, 2.0, doesn't it? We should get a few more of those. It's not easy for Tommy, I must admit. Perhaps one of his greatest predicaments does revolve around the situation where, with his son. It's always a difficult one to talk about. Certain fans will talk about it and just spout their opinions, without any thought that these are human beings, these are people. Yeah. When in all the years that I've known anybody where a footballer's dad was the manager, and this happens a lot in children's football, in all those years, that child had to be almost twice as good just to get the same amount of praise as the others. Because if anything, I wouldn't be surprised if Tommy's a little bit harder on Theo than he is on some of the others. And as I think Tommy's been quoted as well, he's a player. On a match day, he's an Aldershot Town player. He's not his son. And I think that's the way that they make that work. But is Theo what Tommy needs for what he's planning for next season? Who knows? But, I think Tommy he'll be intelligent enough and clever enough, smart enough to know what to do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There's so
I
much
feel for
positivity.
Theo because I think it's very hard for him to win, if you like, because of who his dad is, and he's not a Lorent Tolaj, is he? He's a hardworking, tough tackling, midfield person who does play the ball sideways a lot. He's not deeply creative. But boy, he works hard, and you can certainly see him coming off the pitch having given his all. And I think he cares about Aldershot a lot. Watching him in games when he's not been playing, he's been celebrating with the team as a full team member, full squad member. And I was interested in his interview after Wealdstone, and I think he's been quite hurt by some of the comments that I've read. Privately, he's not said that publicly, but I think it's been tough for him. It'll be great for the Shots fans to get behind him, I think, for the remainder of the season, to see what happens. A bit like a child at school who just needs some encouragement and see what happens.
Yeah, 100%. I back that. I think at his longest run of games and fitness this season, he was well worth his place in the team. I thought he was our best player at Boreham Wood when we won away 2-1 that day. So he's shown that he can do it. And he also understands, having played for his dad at 2 or 3 different clubs, he understands exactly what Tommy wants out there on the pitch and the mentality. And he's in the middle of the park, and he can certainly, affect others around him with their mental attitude towards the game. So he's perhaps got more strength than people acknowledge. And it just needs the right blend on any given day with who's playing. In this Tommy Witherington side, you probably don't want 2 of his type of player in the team every week, do you? You want one of those. And some days it might be Theo, some days it might not be.
Yeah.
That's really, really helpful perspective, Rob. And there's so much you've already mentioned, to be grateful for the position we're in as a club. You can get very picky and actually forget where you've come from 6 months ago. So there's lots of momentum moving in the right direction. And lots to cheer on in this second half of the season for sure. And we can't let you go, Rob, without just allowing you to plug your own podcast, because that would be cruel of us, wouldn't it, to not allow you to do that. Of course, many people know you are the host of the NL Full Time, which is obviously a weekly look. You look across the 3 national leagues, interviews, analysis, great podcast. I've listened already. Just give us the vision behind that, pitch it to us, what it's about.
Well, there's lots of podcasts out and about now, and some of them are similar to ours and some are very different. But when we started 7 years ago, we were the only podcast out there that covered only and purely the 3 national leagues. I've loved being part of it for the last 4 or 5 years. I occasionally hosted in the past, but this year we've made a change, and our previous host is now producing in the background. And so most weeks I've been hosting. It's been such a privilege, like the commentary, it's such a privilege to do it because it opens doors to contacts, to talking to people in and around the level of the game that I absolutely love. And it's not everybody's favourite every week. I think we're one of those podcasts that a lot of people listen to when their side's won and they want to hear what we've had to say about it that particular week. We have a good, steady subscription and listenership. And one thing I can reveal, and I'm really delighted about this, is our biggest audience of the season to that podcast was when Tommy Witherington was on the pod. And I can't remember the exact number, but it was over 1,000 people listened to that pod. And I was really proud of that because Tommy was great with his time, and he absolutely will come on this podcast, chaps. I'm sure of it. And he's great value, isn't he? He just talks such an interesting game, and he's quite frank, and it's so refreshing to hear the honesty as well. Love it. You can hear it most weeks. At the moment, we're just on audio, Spotify, or whichever podcast sites you follow. But hopefully, like yourselves, we'll very shortly be on YouTube as well.
Yeah, be branching out. Dad, we did listen to that interview, didn't we? We thought it was a great interview with Tommy.
Yeah, we did. Yeah. Congratulations on that, Rob. It was New Year's Day that I listened to. I think that was maybe the day it went out. And I thought, obviously, I listened initially. What drew me was Tommy was on, but I was listening anyway. Was going to. I thought he was incredibly open, incredibly detailed in his answers. There wasn't much fluff around it, and it gave me a great insight into his thinking. Just in the sense of he was talking about the future, and Stokes and Tolaj weren't going to walk out of the club and leave us high and dry. It's in hand. Everything is being prepared. He was really I think indicative of a man who knew what he was doing and was looking after the interests of the club. I thought it was incredibly approachable. So and the questions were great. So yeah, I love listening to that. And I thought, yeah, when Liam and I talked about this, we'd love to get Tommy talking a bit more.
Absolutely, get him on. Yeah, he's done a few this season. In fact, that was the humorous way in which I approached him to come on ours. I said, "Come on, I know you've done 2 or 3 others. We better get you on this one." And of course, we pulled him on after I don't know, it was after very soon after a really, really good result. I can't remember which one it was. It might have been soon after Stockport. Was it soon after the Stockport away win in the FA Cup? So yeah, there you go. There's one for you. But thank you very much, of course, for inviting me on. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
No, pleasure, Rob. On behalf of me and Dad, it's been great to have you. Thank you for your time. And I hope you found it helpful listening. Rob, we'd love to get you on again later down the line. But for now, all the best for the rest of the season, and we'll catch you soon.
Brilliant stuff. Keep up the good work, chaps.